neighbors, and welcome to Proud's City Council Candidate Forum for the April the 8th municipal election. This is the first of 3 forums sponsored by Proud to help all of us learn more about our candidates and their views. I am Carolyn Randazzo, your moderator for tonight's forum. It's good to see our candidates here and so many of our neighbors here. I just said to Michael, are we going to get 70 people in this room? Since that's the limit for this room for occupancy. So we're going to start with a few, I don't want to say instructions necessarily, but some things to keep in mind. Proud events are successful because they bring people together of goodwill who can express their views frankly and constructively. Proud's mission is to sponsor opportunities that will encourage Ferguson residents to work together to build a community of harmony and equity within a diverse group of people. Proud encourages people to share their ideas and priorities with one another, to develop appreciation and respect for one another. Our events encourage participation by all members of the Ferguson community, encompassing a wide spectrum of opinions and political views. Proud's forums are not a debate. They are meant to be a conversation. The forums have no interest in choosing winners and losers. The emphasis will be on sharing proposals and visions for bettering our city. The forums will encourage building consensus, finding areas of agreement, and building upon one another's ideas. Each forum will concentrate on a specific topic. All speakers are to stay on topic. We also agree, or Proud uses, the following conversational agreements. The candidate forums will be videotaped. The videos will be posted to Proud's website and Facebook page. The moderator will control the order of comments from the event attendees. Candidates will be given priority to respond to comments from the attendees. Candidates are asked to limit each of their comments to 5 minutes. Other attendees, our neighbors in the audience, are asked to limit their questions and comments to a single 2-minute statement. That's an effort to give everybody a chance to ask what they want to ask and hear a response to that. We do have a timekeeper right here in the front. Jerry's here. He has a sign. Please honor his sign. Okay, so here's some more agreements that we made. Listen carefully. Do not interrupt. Listen with an open mind. Assume others are speaking in good faith. Be respectful of all participants. Speak with honesty. Recognize each event attendee as an individual, not as a representative of a group. Seek clarification in a respectful way. Frankly face areas of disagreement. Agree to disagree when necessary. Any attendee whose conduct is deemed by the moderator to be detrimental to the orderly proceedings of the event will be asked to leave. Now, I taught for 32 years, first, second, and third graders. I will take away your recess if you don't follow the rules. Okay? Are we all right with that? Yeah. Okay. No principal in the building to send you to. Okay. At any rate, listen was used twice in these agreements. I ask each of you to focus on that word and listen carefully to each of our candidates and our neighbors. Please base your questions and answers on what you hear tonight. In answer to tonight's questions, how can we best one question, how can we best market Ferguson as a good place to live? Now, to give us some background on her experiences with marketing homes in Ferguson, I am glad to introduce Tricia Carper. Casper. I'm sorry. Someone else. Yes, Scott.
You want me to talk about that?
Yes, please talk about that. I'm sorry.
So I'm Scott. I'm with the Ferguson Library. We helped a little bit with the technology stuff. That thing is called an owl. That thing is doing audio and video for the entire room. So If you are talking and you're one of the 2 or 3 loudest voices in the room, not only will it pick you up, it will turn its camera on you and zoom in. So, and then you'll be recorded forever on Proud's website. So be aware of that. If you crosstalk or talk in the audience, you're gonna show up on the camera.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Okay, back to you. I'm glad to introduce Tricia Casper. Tricia is a and senior real estate specialist on the Platinum Group team at Keller Williams, focusing on residential real estate in St. Louis County, and St. Charles County. Tricia was born and raised in Ferguson with deep family roots throughout North County, including a family business in Brooklyn. Tricia moved to St. Charles County as a child, but still frequently returned to the area to visit family and later work at the family business. Thank you for being here, Ms. Casper, and come on up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I was trying to decide what to share, and I definitely do not have the answer to the question, but I want to share a story that I think will prompt some discussion about the question. So I currently have a house for sale here in Ferguson on Darst, and it is I'm going to describe the house and the journey we've been through in trying to sell this house, which is still for sale. We listed it last July. Okay, it is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 2-story, 1,328 square feet. It's on an area of land that's 0.155 acres. It was built in 1890 by one of the Herefords, and I think Alan has a Hereford house too. It was on the market for 2 years when my sellers bought it 17 years ago. So we knew it might take a while to sell this time. It is on the smaller side. When you walk in, you can feel it's more compact. The kitchen's a little small. When you open the front door, it blocks the kitchen, so you have to walk in, shut the door, and then go inside. But that's the charm that my sellers loved when they bought it. The original front door faced Darst, and whoever renovated the house moved it to the Adele side, which is the side street. The cellar basement was waterproof, but that is also small. They use it for storage. They put a little sitting room down there, so it doesn't offer much additional space to the house. The owner, Mr. Seller, turned the exterior into garden. And so he loves planting, and he put all kinds of plants all around all sides of the house. And then he pulled in some historic bricks from Ferguson that they were throwing out and made patios all around. I do not have a green thumb. I don't know about you, but I'm not looking for a house with a lot of gardening to do, but some people are. So that kind of limits our buyer pool as well. There is one small side yard on one side with some grass, but no fence. There is a driveway, but no garage or covered parking. And there's no central air, but it does have window units throughout. And because of his gardening, it stays naturally cool all year round. So they barely need the air conditioner, which is a great savings. They did a lot of updates to the house over 17 years. Pretty much everything you would want done, they have done. So when we looked at the data to decide what to list the price for, we measured it against all the other similar homes in the area and then added in the value of the improvements. Because everyone wants to recoup the cost they put into their home, of course, when they sell it. So that number we came up with was $249,000, which is very high in that area, as you know. So the reason they also thought that was a good number is because I sold a house across the street right before that for $275,000. And that house was only 300 square feet more. It felt a lot bigger, had a lot more land that it was sitting on. But it was a 3-bed, 2-bath. And so they thought they would have a similar experience. But that house, their house is still sitting there. The house on Clay sold the opening weekend to someone that moved in from out of town, I believe. So the feedback we got from people coming to see the house on Darst was that it was overpriced. So we dropped it to $229,000. So that was $30,000 less. We still got some interest, but no offers, and the feedback still said it's overpriced. Then Pam Hartley from the FNIP program reached out to me and said, we have this program where people can get a certain amount of money as a home buyer, and then they don't have to pay it back if they live there for 2 years. So she put a sign in the yard, and we still had little interest. So then in September, we dropped it down to I think, yeah, 220, I believe. Soon after that, we had some vandals come by, pull all the signs out of the yard. The flyers were in the streets. The only thing left remaining was my big yard sign, the big metal one. So we lost our FNIP sign. That's when the sellers got a little disheartened. They were already, ready to move. Nobody was showing interest. The house was sitting, so we pulled it off the market for 30 days. And what that does is it allows the days on market to reset to 0 when we relist it. So we thought it would help them gain a new pool of buyers. And then we relisted it at a lower price. And again, little activity, so we dropped it and it ended up at 229. And then December, I started getting calls from companies wanting to give them money to use it as a rental, these corporations coming in, and they didn't want to do that. I even got one today before I left my house to come here. And then in February, they decided we just want to sell our house. So we dropped the price $50,000 more. So now we're at 180. And then we started getting a lot of showings consistently. Everybody coming in was a new thing, even from listing it in July. This was brand new. 2 days ago, we got our first interested buyer. They had a showing, they loved it. They scheduled a second showing, but then they canceled it due to the schedule of the buyer. So as of now, we have not heard back from them. As of March 3rd, the estimated value of this home on Maris, which is the multiple listing service in our area, is between $250,000 and $178,000. And we are at 180 and we have crickets now. So even now it's still for sale. Now, when I sold the house on Clay, we were at the tail end of that really busy time, and it was literally like right after they sold that house, it started to shift. And that's when we listed the Darst house, and the market changed that dramatically that now this house is not selling at all. And the house on Clay sold for so much that now when you run comps in the area, it throws them all off because it was so high. So this process has kind of shown me how home values are perceived in Ferguson. These two houses are, I could throw a rock from one to the other. They're that close to each other, but they're across Darst from each other, which my sellers tell me that makes a big difference. And despite all the updates, we still have people telling us the price is too high. So that is the story I have for you. I don't have answers to the question, but I'm hoping that will prompt some of you to bring some possible answers to how we can make this, how we can make changes in this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tricia. Any of us who have bought or sold a house know it's not an easy thing to get done, depending on the market and many other things. So, we really appreciate that insight and what's really happening, because those of us who lived here for a long time, we haven't had to deal with it, and it does change. So we're ready just about, and we're well ahead of schedule. So that should give us time for more questions towards the end. And but we want to hear from our candidates now. So let's kind of go back over how it's going to run. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to respond to tonight's topic. One more time, and you've got it in front of you too. How can we best market Ferguson as a good place to live? Our timekeeper will give you reminders before your 5 minutes are up, and then again when your 5 minutes are over. Anything to add to that, Jerry?
Nope, that's it.
That's all good? Okay. Please honor these reminders. We're really full in here, so we want to have plenty of time for questions after your presentations. Okay? Remember, audience, we want questions. Ask a question, not make a comment, and limit yourself to 2 minutes. And Jerry will keep track of that for us too. Okay? Remember, candidates, we want to hear about you tonight. Your views on this topic. We want to hear about you, yourself. It's your chance to tell what you want to say about you and about how you would work on this problem. We all feel like Ferguson's a good place to live pretty much, I think, since we live here. So, tell us how we can keep that up and communicate that to other people too. Okay, each of you drew a number when you arrived this evening to determine the order of speaking, okay? So, who's lucky number 1? Please stand up and you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Jamil Franklin. I've been a resident here in Ferguson for 9 years now. I want to first start off by thanking Proud for having this forum in person. I really appreciate the effort and everything it took to pull this off. Also want to thank all my fellow candidates for actually showing up and expressing your viewpoints regarding tonight's topic. So just a little bit about me.
I'm sure. That's a 31 today.
Oh.
I want to pause the timer.
I stopped the time.
We're okay.
Reclaim your time. So just a little bit of background on who I am. Born and raised in the city of St. Louis. Attended Cardinal Ritter College Preparatory High School back in the day when it was on the north side, graduated in '98. I got my degree from Talladega and I was pre-med, decided I didn't want to go to med school. So I took up the environmental sciences on the graduate level, got an MPA from Jacksonville State. And then I moved back home and thought I would get a job immediately. But first job was actually washing dishes part-time at a cafe in the West End. So very humbling, but today, I've almost 20 years working for St. Louis County Public Health Department. I'm a waste district contract supervisor and I manage all things waste related with St. Louis County. But as far as the topic, I think the first thing we need to think about is the actual history of our city. If we go back to the early 80s, that's when the demographics of Ferguson started to shift. Prior to the 1980s, Ferguson was about 99% white. By 2000, we were at kind of 50-50. And if we fast forward to 2024, the city is now 70% African American. And so when we say, how do we attract individuals to our city, I think the proof is in the pudding. More and more African Americans and people of color will move to the city of Ferguson over the next 10 to 20 years. And so what type of city will it be for those individuals that decide to make Ferguson their home over the next 10 to 20 years? And one of the things we have to look at is poverty. Where there's poverty, there tends to be crime. And right now, our average is about 21 to 25%, depending on what source you use. And that's almost twice what the national average is. And poverty in Ferguson is concentrated, and it's heavily African-American poverty. Just to give you some simple numbers, there's about 4,000 individuals in the city of Ferguson living below the poverty line. Of that number, about 3,300 are African-American. About 300 and some odd are white citizens. So, and the most, I guess for me, the most disheartening figure is the majority of poverty is amongst 5-year-olds, females. So that means we've got a lot of children in poverty in Ferguson. And when you're growing up in that type of environment, it kind of limits access to education, healthcare, jobs, et cetera. And it becomes a vicious cycle, and it actually attracts more poverty. So one of the things in my mind, when I think about addressing, how do we get people to move to Ferguson quality, we've got to address poverty. How do we do that? You know, we have to target those areas where we know we have the concentrated poverty with, non-for-profit organizations that specialize in job training. Our school board, we need to invest in pre-K education. I think right now it's 3 days a week and it's limited hours. We kind of need 5 days a week, a full day, pre-K 3, pre-K 4 for all children in Ferguson, you know. And then I just think that we have to invest in our youth. We've heard about everyone saying we need to do that, but we don't really have a lot of programs to give them, you know, alternatives to the streets. You see the crime in Ferguson, it normally involves teenagers. A lot of teenagers that are misguided, a lot of teenagers growing up in poverty. So definitely, I think we have to make an effort. We will never eradicate it, but it has to be an emphasis of this council of our city. One other thing that I'm a strong proponent of is home ownership. You know, I bought my house back in 2014, 2015, it's a blur now. But when you own something, you value it more. You tend to take care of your property. You know, your neighbors look out, like my street is nothing but homeowners. So my neighbor, when I was introduced to the block, she said, "Hey, you're cutting your grass too tall. You need to bring it down. I can show you how to do it." And so I learned I had to cut my grass like one of my elders instructed me, because she cared about the community. She cared about the neighborhood. When it's, and we have good renters in our community. I don't want people to think that I think, hey, we don't want any rentals, because we have a lot of people that are transient. You know, they're working contract labor jobs, so they're here 6 months to 5 years. And I'm okay with that, but the low income housing that's neglected, you know, they generally are for, you know, low income, poverty stricken individuals. And I think we need to get away from that, or at least the percentages need to shift. Right now, our city is about 50 to 50 home ownership versus rental. And I can tell you, once we get to 70%, you know, we become a community. Oh, I'm done. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Jamil, you didn't see the other signs I held up? Like,
I was in the zone,
within the
sorry.
Mr. Franklin, it's easy to do. Okay. All right, next up, number 2 for the audience. Okay.
Hello, my name is Mika Covington. I go by Mika. I live in Ward 3 on Edge Hill. When we got the question, I did my research like Jamil did, and then I made it really simple. I said, what made me come to Ferguson? I came here as a renter. My kids were going to school here already. The community brought us in. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sell my house in Country Club and I'm gonna move to Ferguson. Couldn't afford a house here, but I could rent. So I rented for, don't give me the line, I think 6 years before I bought my house on Edge Hill. I like the community. I like the parish that I belong to. I like that I can go to farmers market. I like that we can have this. I didn't have this in Country Club here. So my whole thing was that I wanted to be around good people. Didn't matter if it was black, it was white. If you make 3,000 a week, I make 2,000 a week. I wanted to be around good people. So my whole thing of working in Ferguson is we gotta be a community. We gotta be a good community. We gotta get on these organizations and we gotta stand up for Ferguson. We had some years back where it was bad. We can't keep going backward. If we want to move Ferguson forward, we gotta stop talking about the past. We gotta do what we need to do now, come together as Ferguson as a whole, and stop tearing each other down. We gotta get on Facebook and show these houses. Go around to WashU and these other schools and, not WashU, I'm sorry. So, and these people that's here, from out of town, maybe they'll wanna buy these houses. Maybe they'll wanna stay. My kids are out of town going to school. I'm not sure they're gonna come back to St. Louis. They might like where they are. But we just gotta come together as a community. I would not use my whole 5 minutes. But my whole thing is, I thought about what made me come to Ferguson. It was the community. It was the people that I met through BTC, through the farmers market, through the fish fries. People I've met through Ward 3 now is what keeps me in Ferguson. So besides just how do we get them here, how do we keep people here? How do we stop people from moving? Come together as a community, stop bittering and show what we can do in Ferguson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. All right, and next. must be Fran.
Oh, no,
Nope, number three.
it's Larry.
Number
Larry, I'm
Because he wants
sorry.
it all.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Good evening, Ferguson. My
Good
name is
evening.
Larry Robinette. I'm running for city council in Ward 2. I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'd like to thank Proud for putting the event on, even though everybody knows I had questions about it in the beginning, right? It's good to be here and talk to everybody. So a little bit about me, I think, I'm going to be somewhat redundant, particularly if you pay attention to Facebook. I moved into Ferguson a little over 20 years ago when white flight was happening and moving out of Ferguson. The first realtor that we spoke with, my wife and I, told us we were crazy for coming to Ferguson because we were white. And we ended up in Ferguson anyway. The house that we bought was a rundown, very much neglected home that needed a lot of repairs. So we bought the house and did not move here for several months because the house needed work before we could even move into it. So getting into Ferguson was definitely active choice of ours, not listening to the things that were going on in the community, the people that were moving out of Ferguson. And not only that, when we came here, we started our family. Our first son was born. When he got to be old enough to go to school, we visited parochial schools, private schools, and we put our kids in the public school system. The public school system at the time was 91% Black. So my point here is I've been accused of a lot of things, right, in the last 2 years, but one thing I am not is racist. And I would like to point that out as that gets mentioned in a lot of forums, right? So then we got involved in the community, and I don't know, we have been here about 2 years, I think, and a very nice lady drove by and we were working on the front porch of the house, and she said, hey, we have a neighborhood organization. We'd really like you to come to the neighborhood meeting. And we also need members on the board of directors. And so over the course of the next 10 years, we spent 9 years on the board. My wife and I were on there together for a while. 9 years on the board of directors. I spent 6 years as the president of the neighborhood organization and spent several years as the co-chair for Neighborhood League Association, which was the group of leaders from all of the organizations around Ferguson. Many of the organizations were very active back then. We're still working to try to rebuild those, bring them back up and be more active now, and make sure that we have the opportunity for people to get involved through their neighborhood organization. Those are good voices. We had the attention of the police. We had the attention of the city manager. It worked pretty well, in my opinion. So, enough about me, right? The rest of it you can continue to read. I want to talk a little bit about our question or our topic for the evening, right? How to best market Ferguson. So you'll hear a lot around housing, but in my opinion, marketing Ferguson has a little to do with housing and a lot to do with other things out there, right? The fact that we have one of the most divided cities in North County. And I'm not saying that from my perspective, I'm saying that from the perspective of the people that I work with in Florissant, in Delwood. When they read the things that they read, when they see what happens in our council meetings, they know we're divided. And if we don't fix that first, we'll never get through to the rest of the things because we won't put the programs in place that need to be there to make Ferguson a place where people want to move to and want to live. I also think infrastructure is the next big part of being able to make any community livable, right? It's a money balance thing, right? There's only so much money to go around, but we need to be putting money into our infrastructure in a very big way for the next several years. And I'm talking about roads, police, everything that we need to do to ensure that the infrastructure is there. Once those two things are done, I think about half of our problem of making Ferguson a livable city will solve itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So you were number 3, so now we need speaker number 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fran Griffin, and I'm running for city council in the third ward. I have been a resident in the third ward for 20 years. I purchased my house when I was 24, so I'm giving away my age there. But the reason why I moved out to Ferguson was because it was what my money could afford. My oldest son was about to start kindergarten, and I was looking to find a home where I could raise my children in a stable environment. And I wanted the best school district that my money could afford. And at the time, for me at that time, it was Ferguson. I actually met the children before I met the parents. Got a pretty large field, so I'm right there at the corner of Lorette and Blanding. So for me, that was right there by Bermuda Elementary. All of the kids came down and would play in the field. And then the parents would come looking for them. And I'd be like, hey, they're right here, you ever introduce myself to them and got to know them through going to parent teachers meetings and cookies, muffins for moms and donuts for dads. And for me, it just became a new community. I'm originally from the city. For me, that was the biggest house that I'd ever lived in, to be honest with you. I consider myself a reformed citizen, meaning, I grew up and I was all over the place. My mother was a single mother. There wasn't a stable environment. So for me, I was going from house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, and I wanted something different for my family. I took a lot of pride in that. I took a lot of pride in the fact that I was able to purchase my house at 24. I worked my butt off for it. And I was committed to providing that positive environment, not just for my children, but for the children that I had grown to know and love in the community. It quickly became something that I was just familiar with. There was a sense of community that I was familiar with. And so for me, I chose to stay here and raise my babies. I've worked in Ferguson for a long time. I currently work in Ferguson's first ward, St. Peter's Church. I did want to address the question about marketing. So for me, I have a problem with the word marketing because I feel like you're trying to sell somebody something. And to me, shouldn't be trying to sell something. What we should be doing is actually creating the change in the community. In order to move forward, you have to recognize the past. You have to acknowledge it so that you don't repeat it. We've had FNIP for a very long time. We've had programs in place for a very long time. If we did not have that knowledge, then we wouldn't know how to move forward in the FNIP program to help encourage home ownership. In regards to your question, I would say just by watching a lot of the different shows, I see that, the gardening, the personal touch for a resident, is something that we take pride in. But for a home buyer, they want something, that's something standard that they can put their love and care into to make their own. I believe that because we have renters, then we should have a list through the city of Ferguson, on the city of Ferguson's website that talks about, who are the landlords. One thing I notice when I go around the third ward, and I hear this all the time, we've got elders that are now aging out and their kids are grown and they want to move into the area. We can serve as a resource to be able to say, hey, you might not be able to get this house closer to your parents so that you can take care of them, but here's this list of options where you can buy, whether it's renting or buy. where you can purchase a home so you can be closer to your loved one as they age out. I think we need to do a better job with expanding, programs like, thank you, expanding programs and opening up opportunities for people in our community to be able to own homes. Currently, as it states, felons cannot take processing some of the programs that we have through the city of Ferguson because it's been said that they can't do that. Well, how do you eliminate crime and be able to provide stability in your community if you're not giving people an outlet to be able to do so?
Thank you, Fran. And now we're ready for speaker number 5, candidate number 5, I should say.
The honor to speak to you this evening. My name is Henry Yuanov. I'm a candidate for the City Council Ward 1. I moved into Ferguson about 3 years ago. I know people say, how long have you lived here? I didn't know about it. I used to live in Lafayette Square. And I came to Lafayette Square when nobody wanted to move into Lafayette Square. We did everything. Now I couldn't afford to buy the house that I used to live in. And I'm a father of 2 daughters. One works for the U.S. government in Bahrain. The other one is a special needs daughter that lives with me in a single father. And I've owned businesses in St. Louis. And I've worked in North County in community organization for the last 30 years, but nobody knows me. So I brought some pride. This is something I did for UMSA. Blackstone Hill. This is a party that was held in our house. And this is Congressman Gray. That's me with the African outfit. So what I'm trying to tell you, the reason why I decided to run for city council was that when I came to the city council meeting, they were trying to put a chicken place or Chick-fil-A in my neighborhood without consulting. So we went to the meeting and I saw how arrogant the elected officials were. And I said, do these people understand that we vote for them, that they work for us? And then we pushed and made sure that that chicken place wasn't built. I want to thank the city council today. They started digging since 1985, from my understanding. They haven't fixed that street. They started fixing the street that we've been complaining about on a regular basis. So that's the crux part of me being involved in running for office. I'm 66 years old. I'm not running because I want to be involved in politics. I'm running because I think we need people who can bring the kind of change, the kind of correct the kind of issues that you're talking about. Most people who want to bring economic change or improvement in their community can look at the examples that they have in Oakland, California, Ann Arbor, Michigan, diverse community. The world is changing. The world is not like the program I did. And you see it, this was 30 years ago. The world is changing. We're getting older, and the young people who are coming doesn't look like all of us. We have to make sure that it is a place people can come to rather than move it away. One other thing I want to say to you, I'm tired of driving to Corkwood, driving to Florissant, or going somewhere else to spend the money that could stay in the city. We can bring businesses in this community. We can attract people to come into this community. The Emerson building is sitting up there empty. That's a large campus that we can attract people to come to. Those people that work in Emerson will have to live in Ferguson. And our property, one of the reasons why I bought a property here, our property have some of the best, like it's Victorian architecture. I ran into a gentleman, he's an art, I don't want to show his name. He's one of the historians around here in the farmers market. And I talked to him about what is going on in Ferguson. Ferguson was a train town. A long time ago, St. Louis thought it was a good idea to sit private, to let Chicago have the train station. And because the barge would soon make it. And it did. So we need new ideas, not the same old ideas that we have. Nothing wrong with the old ideas, but we need new ideas because the world is changing. We need to have new people who are going to come in and try to help us. Einstein wasn't born here. And he said that doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is just insanity. And I don't think anybody in this room is the same. All we need is to try something that will help us, because everybody in this room is an investor. When you sell your house or hand it over to your children, you want them to benefit from it. And I know I was attacked, called all kinds of names. Then Martin Luther King says, sticks and stones may break my back, words alone. It doesn't bother me because I know that what I'm talking about and what I'm trying to bring to, with the help of other city council members and the mayor, is an economic development that will help all of us benefit from within this community. Again, thank you. If you have any question, if you want to find out more about me, this is what the Post Dispatch said about me in 2006. So I may not be out here, my name may not be famous, but at the end of the day, my interest is the betterment of my neighbors. I'm just your neighbor asking for your vote. Thank you.
And we're ready for number 6.
Good evening. My name is Mike Ballmer. I'm a lifelong Ferguson resident. I've been here 40 years. I'm gonna need the help of like 3 of the members of Proud to distribute a couple of pamphlets I made to hand out to the audience. I purposely printed 20 of these so that we can be neighborly. We were just voted the most neighborly city in Ferguson, so let's show the country. While she's handing those out, I'll go get into those in a second. I've been here my whole life, like I said. There's many times where I could have moved, but I chose to stay here to raise my family because I do love living in Ferguson. Ferguson has a lot of things to work on to improve, but we do have some very nice things about our community. Our schools, schools are very important to attracting people to move to your community. I was a product of our school, Ferguson Elementary, Ferguson Middle, Florida High School, and Ferguson Valley Community College. I've seen what's happened with the schools. I went to the schools when the diversity was changing. Graduated high school in 2003. Since my time leaving high school, they have developed a STEAM program in Ferguson, Florida. I think it's an awesome program. I probably would have been a student of STEAM had it existed in my time. Problem I see with STEAM is it's a resident retention tool. It's not a recruitment tool. That school, the middle school and high school are both state ranked for public education. So I think it'd be nice to see all municipalities that are parts of the school district work together to market our school district and that program, because we could bring families to Ferguson that have kids that are achievers. Parents of kids who are achievers generally are better residents. They're more engaged. They participate more. They cut their grass more frequently. That will improve things instantly. The school district is not in the purview of city council, but we could certainly do a partnership with the school district, with Florissant, Hazelwood, Cool Valley, Jennings, all participating districts. Our Parks Department is the envy.
We got kicked off the Zoom, so I don't want to lose your time, so I'm trying to pause your time,
Okay.
maybe give you a little bit extra background, but it's still trying to connect us. Is Scott in here?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm
Recording in progress.
we're good. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry.
No problem. Ferguson Parks Department is the envy of most cities. We have amazing park programming. We have amazing park staff. We have more parks than, our park plan actually said we're over parked. Now, we could do a better job maintaining those parks, and I agree with that. We are, a robust replacement cycle for this playground, but we need to do more. I really like the cross partnerships the parks do with the police department, the fire department, public works. There's a real good unison and
there's a good sync between city departments when it comes to park planning events. They do the Santas and Sirens, they do events with the police and fire are always at all the parks events. The Public Works Department's there handing out candy. It's a great program. Then there becomes the issue of the most apparent things people notice when I ran for office, while I've been in office, before I was in office. Our crime is out of control. Our housing is embarrassing. You will see that in these pictures. I'll briefly go over these pictures with you. The one marked 1, that's a house that's been burned up 7 years ago. It is unacceptable for that house to sit there like that. Believe it or not, guess what? The house next door is vacant too. That's not a coincidence. The next page, that house is 3 doors down. That house is also falling down. And the house next to it's also vacant. That is across the street from Dave Park. The next house on graph, that's behind Dave Park. That's 200 feet from the other one. House next door is also vacant. The house on page 4, that's across the street on graph. The house next to that is also vacant, and the house to the right you see that has the new window, that house is for sale right now. Guess what? Probably not gonna sell. Who in their right mind would buy a house when that's next door? And live there? Nobody. Number 5, January Avenue. This house has been this way 5 years. The house next, on page 6, that house is next door, also vacant. This is across from Ferguson Middle School. Page 7 will get into long-term crime statistics. The homicide rate for Ferguson since 1988, not comforting. I also list other homicide rates in the same year from other developed nations and cities around us. Our homicide rate is 10 times the national average. It's not good. Last page is assault. Also, the trend line is uphill. Until we get crime and housing under control, we're not going to get quality families in Ferguson. I've worked on this in 3 years. We used to tear down 10 houses a year. I tried to fund 50. We have 150 to do. FNIP has programs to encourage homeowners to stay in their homes with investing in their homes. Tree program, first-time home buyer program, low income. The grant's not even matched. It's pure money given to low income people are qualified. We have to invest in our roads, our infrastructure, and our housing, or we're going nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. You gave a lot to think about. I hope you listened and heard a lot of things that you want to ask questions about. For now, before we start that process, we're still running ahead of our time. That's great. We may actually, where's Scott, get out of here by 8 o'clock when the library closes. That's just great. At any rate, let's take a little break, just a couple of minutes, stand up, stretch your legs, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm saying just about 12 minutes.
It's not, so I went right on.
I know, but
The inside of the house.
Okay, let's send my to
Oh, well. Not here, not now.
Yeah. So that didn't go out. No, but they experienced so much.
It ain't good. Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I need to go get
Going out there, yeah, yeah.
all the time. If you call them non.
How many times have you can hear my voice? Thank you.
Boy Scout sign works every time.
All right, you get a chance to stretch your legs. Alan, anything? Okay, the Zoom issue. No problems? Are we all okay, Lindsay?
We're on board right now.
Okay.
We're
Scott?
You okay, Mike?
Okay, because we've been hearing that there was no sound.
For about a minute. For about a minute.
Okay. And a reminder, I won't say it as well as Scott did about our owl that is sitting here, that it's not only the microphone, it is also a camera. So if you are talking, the camera is going to zoom in on you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's be aware of that and not have any side conversations or anything like that. Okay, so we are ready for the question part of the forum. Just some reminders, be sure that you ask a question, not a comment, a question.
This,
Go ahead.
yeah, excuse me. Ah. Nick, is this you? Is this you?
What?
I don't.
No, it's a young lady.
It's
No,
me.
I didn't fill out.
It's me.
The lady over there.
I'm me, I'm my own
What is
person.
it?
Okay.
Okay, what is this?
That's, just information
Disparaging.
on, no, it's not disparaging. If you look on that website. Okay, if you look on that website, it actually has like the actual receipts of all that information, the actual documentation and stuff. I just felt the need, I'm a lifelong Ferguson resident, and I just felt the need to share information on what I discovered about Mr. Winifo. And so I just wanted to bring that, and I didn't know where else to bring it, so I thought here was a good place, so.
Okay,
I didn't know.
as your moderator, remember, the topic tonight is how can we best market Ferguson as a good place to live? That is what
Yeah.
we're talking about tonight,
Yeah,
and with an emphasis on housing. Now, we've had some things passed out. It would be, in my opinion, this is me speaking, it would be, in my opinion, that it would be best to check with the people in charge of this forum
okay,
before anything gets handed out.
okay,
And we want to keep to our topic. We agreed to keeping this respectful and staying on topic. We also agreed to assume others are speaking in good faith. We're speaking with honesty tonight, not speculation. We're recognizing each attendee as an individual, not as a representative. We know we're going to have disagreements, but we're going to agree to disagree. We're not going to interrupt each other. And yes, we will, if anyone becomes disruptive or is not following those agreements, we will ask you, you will be asked to leave. So let's remember that. I feel like the first part of this went very well. I like to give people a little break in between the action because 2 hours is a long time. And we want to keep up the good vibes, the good opinions, the good working with each other tonight as we continue with for our next 45, 50 minutes of our forum. And remember, you're asking a question. You're not making a comment. You will have, we're working on 2 minutes because we want people to have time. We've got a full room here. We want people to have time to ask their questions and get a reply from our candidates. But we know if we give everybody 5, 10 minutes, we're not going to hear from very many people. Okay, so I don't want to talk any longer because we want to hear from you, the people. Okay, we're going to do our best to call on people. I know some of you I don't. Don't like to just point at people, but I may have to. And I'm members of crowd, if you'll help with that also, maybe you can tap people on the shoulder for the next time. We do have people on Zoom, so we're going to kind of go back and forth between people in the room and people on Zoom. Okay, so keep that in mind, and we want to hear from as many people as we can. Okay, so I saw this lady in the blue denim. Let's start with you.
I'm a little confused. You kind of said, we're supposed to talk how to better the community, but you said only have questions. So my question is to Mike Palmer. I've lived here 24, Patricia, for 1967, basically my whole life. I'm afraid if I fall behind on my taxes, are you gonna come and kick me to the curb and pay my taxes and pad it a little bit and tell me to get out? Because the house that I'm at 24, at 28 just sold last year for $170,000. You couldn't give Katie Kelly fair market value for her home?
Hey, ma'am, we need a question.
Okay, my question is, all this rental property, why are we letting known sex offenders live next door at 22 Patricia? I've screamed for help.
Okay, thank you.
Please, somebody help me, because nobody seems to care. How can we market Ferguson when this is what is around me? And our own city council is kicking residents that have been there for 15 years.
Thank you. We've got your
She's
question.
homeless.
Ma'am, we
She's
have your question
homeless.
now.
Her name is Katie Kelly.
We understand, and it is troubling. We have your question now, okay?
It's heartbreaking. It's more than troubling.
I
We want to be
understand.
a community. We want to say how good we are. How can we sit and watch somebody who's failing Cancer is a big thing. I would spend every dime I had to save my loved one.
Okay,
She's disabled,
ma'am, we understand.
$3,000.
We understand. A lot of us have a lot of issues, personal issues.
So our city
also.
council tells
So-
us to get out as they're moving in.
Ma'am, I'm
rehabbing
sorry,
it, she's
this is
picking up
not-
her things.
Ma'am, thank you. We hear you.
Oh, I
We
hope
hear you.
somebody hears me.
Okay,
because
let's
I will
get an
preach
answer
for
now,
Katie Kelly.
okay? Our time is running. Now, anyone want to handle that?
First of all, I want to say, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank
I apologize. I know, being unhoused is a big issue.
Everybody deserves a place to live.
Everybody
She
deserves a
has her
place to live.
problems.
Everybody deserves a place to
You
live.
don't need to be on the streets.
Correct. We have a warming center.
Okay,
we have-
have the
we
city
have
councilman
resources.
kick you out so you can go to the warming center,
No,
please.
not at all. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not city
She's a
council.
resident here 15 years,
What I'm
owns her
saying-
home.
What I'm
She
saying
cut her
is,
grass.
it's not okay. It's not okay. And we are, as a community, we are going through it at this point in
Do
time.
we care?
I care. I
I
care.
pray to God somebody cares.
Now, I'm not the property owner, but what I will say is there are resources available to help her
She
until
has
she
a
can.
disease, alcoholism. She thought in her mind that she was getting it together. She thought she had a loan secured. She waited too long and
That's
he's nipping at the bud to get the home.
I'm
Have it,
sorry.
that money. Sorry me. I have
Yeah,
nothing
I'm
more to say.
sorry.
Hey, if you people don't see it, then you better look real hard.
Can I at least speak on
I
that?
need to go.
Can I at least? speak on
Nobody
that?
here cares.
I understand she's passionate right now. She's got a friend that's in need. Her friend is
This
unhoused.
is my
because of-
daughter. Kick her to the curb.
Her friend is unhoused because of whatever reason she has. That's a big concern. And that in itself is gonna cause division within our community. Say, at the church that I work at, we do have resources. We have AA. She mentioned, we have AA programs to be able to help our residents in the community. We have a warming center for folks who are unhoused that can come in and receive food, shelter, a place to wash their clothes, a place to eat and stay for the night. We as a community, it's gonna be even more important because this is not just for Ferguson. This is gonna be our country, period. And it's going to take us as a community to work together, to partner with each other, whether we're talking about as landlords, to find somebody else who can help her, to have programs in place that can help assist her with this transition. If she needs help, we have a parish nurse at St. Peter's Church. So if she needs assistance with her care, because she might be on limited funds, we have the ability to be able to help. And it's gonna take all of us working together in order to be able to do that. So I just wanted to say that much because that is serious. And I never want to downplay anybody in their concerns that they have for their residents. To me, that's love. You know, you're concerned about your neighbor. Those are the type of things that we want to build in our community long term.
Right there.
Yes. I think it's the responsibility of government to protect its citizens. That's the reason why we have a government. You don't have a government so that they can take advantage of. My opponent talked about, abandoned properties. The city is gonna be spending a lot of money destroying properties. One of the things that I talked about, my economic development, is home ownership, increasing home ownership. There are several ways. If the city doesn't want to do it, there's organizations that do that to try to help low-income people. Because I had this conversation with my opponent. I asked him about, he said, what are you going to do about generational poverty? I said, some of the generational poverty is as a result of government actions. So that government can also help its citizens to be able to become homeownership. I'm going to give you an example. Homeowners, I'm going to give you an example. We have people in our community who are working every day. But banks are not willing to give them loan because they think they're high risk. But they've been paying rent for 3, 4, 5 years. We have properties that we're about to demolish. We're going to spend money to destroy that property. Instead of making that property disappear, we take some of the surplus money that we haven't used, refurbish that house, sell it to those people. They become homeowners. And you appreciate it and you grow your portfolio, and we reduce the so-called crime that we're talking about. Because crime is associated with what? Poverty. When economic downturn comes, you have high crime. When there's more money, less crime. So we need to be able to make members of our community, just like this lady leaving, finding sources to help her stay in her home rather than take advantage of it. That's what I think is the responsibility of the elected officials and the community. We're just voted good neighbors. And to be a good neighbor, like Mr. Rogers said, would you be my neighbor? To be a good neighbor, we need to be able to look after our neighbors rather than how we can take advantage of.
I agree. Yeah.
Mr. Robinette?
A couple things I want to address. One is, there are programs already in place in Ferguson, right? The city of Ferguson looks at all of the homes that they're about to tear down. The ones that are rebuildable are rebuildable. The ones that are being torn down couldn't be rebuilt with a mountain of money, right? That's why they're being torn down. So it's not as simple as just saying, we're gonna take this house that the city's tearing down, and we're gonna rehab it and fix it for somebody. That program is rock solid. It gets walked through, every home gets looked at and evaluated, and if it's salvageable, it becomes a salvageable home and gets put out there to be rehabbed. If it's not, then it goes on the tear down list, right? So I don't think that particular part of the program is depriving homeownership from anybody that's wanting to move into Ferguson. There are also other programs out there that handle these same types of things, right? FNIP is working on a couple of those programs now. One's under the Abandoned Housing Act, one's under the Donation Act, right? And FNIP hasn't done that for 20 years. It sat dormant for a long time. And so that's just the home ownership part of FNIP didn't have enough of a board to make that move. We are now starting to move forward that with Legal Services of Eastern Missouri to try to put some of those together and do exactly what you're talking about. So there are programs in place today that are working some of those things. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
Okay. I do have a question to the moderator. That, the woman sitting there, that was kind of like almost like an attack, not a question. Can I address that at least, or
Address what, the question she had?
her poking at me, or, I mean, is there,
I
can
mean, we did what we could, but she had a question. Do you
I
want
just
to
provide
answer the question?
facts?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think she's referring to the property across the street from her at 17 Patricia. It was probably the worst kept property on the street. And it was up for the annual St. Louis County tax auction. St. Louis County will auction anybody in this room's house off for taxes if you don't pay 3 years in a row. They warn you every year about it. I was a bidder on that property. When I bid on that property, I didn't know who Miss Kelly was. As far as I knew, the property might be vacant. You know, there was open burning in the backyard regularly and a lot of drug abuse there. I paid the back taxes and received what they call the tax sale certificate. Miss Kelly had 1 year to pay back the amount of money with interest. She did not do that. When I applied for a tax sale certificate, I received one, and that's when I found out Miss Kelly was in the property. At that time, I offered to rent it to her for a very nominal fee to prevent her from being unhoused. She declined that offer. So what I did from there was, she had a friend of hers call me and say, will you sell it to us? I said, I'll gladly sell it back to you for the back taxes. I'm not trying to make any money. The exact amount I paid minus my $400 in attorney's fees, I'll give it right back to you. No other tax sale purchaser on earth would do that. I'm just letting you know. No one else would offer her the right to rent that property back at a nominal fee to remain in her property. She declined both those offers. So then eventually I had to evict her, and at the same time, all of her stuff was in the home when she left. I could have easily thrown everything she owned into a dumpster. I gave her 3 weeks to come get all of her items. I met her every day to get food out of her refrigerator and paid the electric to keep her food cold. What else could I do? I mean, after she had moved next door with the neighbor, I was cordial with her the entire time and said, hey, get the money together. I'm more than happy to sell the place back to you. I will not make a single dime on this. I abated all of the nuisance, got the property off the naughty list, and put $65,000 or $70,000 into that home. It is the gem of the street now, next to maybe Denny Barr, who's a retired city employee who lives 2 doors down.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. I think we've seen the steps. Anyone else being heard from me? Okay, let's go to an online question.
We do not
I
have any
just wanted
questions.
to report to Mr.
No, that's not what we're doing tonight.
No, not him, the information about FINIP, that's all I wanted to talk.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's not tonight. You know, we're gonna give everybody 2 minutes and that's it. Okay, anybody online?
Nobody's online right
Anybody
now.
online?
Well, they're online, but no questions.
No questions online. Yes, ma'am. Right here.
I have a question about marketing. I'm of new, and fairly new. I've only been here for 6 years. But when I bought my house, nobody informed me of FNIP. And then a year later, my niece bought her house across the street. I don't know how you market this program. The way I found out, because I was fortunate enough to use it last year to remove a tree, was from a Florissant resident who knew a Ferguson resident. But that was 6 years later. For me to have bought my house at 65, I could have used any help I could get. And then to hear there was a 2-year program where I could have benefited from this. So my question is, how is this marketed? Because I have other family members who are also looking for homes, and now I do market it, but where's the resource that that I could have learned about, other than a coworker?
Okay, everybody got that? Okay, all right. Mr. Winfield?
Yes, that was the issue I was trying to raise. I bought my house 3 years ago. I wasn't aware of it either. I think that the notion, I just have a pictures of, because I've been walking around and saw how beautiful Ferguson is. I have pictures of houses in Ward 1 that have been neglected or left abandoned and not inspected. So Larry talked about the fact that these houses that they are destroying are
I just want to know where does the market?
Yeah,
come
so-
from. That's all.
so,
I'm
yeah,
just
so
where to get it
what I'm
from.
saying is that this house is, so my question is,
Visible. How come I wasn't as a new resident, contacted or?
so.
That's all. That's not about-
I was trying to finish. Yeah, back
What's
to.
so hard
back-
to ask a specific
Can I finish? Please.
Just get going on
Okay.
that.
Let's stop. We want to hear
Okay,
our
so-
candidates.
What I was trying to, the point I'm trying to make is that we talk about this program being there. We let the houses stay there for years and be neglected, and then somebody gets their hands on it. When we could have mitigated the situation right away. Like the point that she was making, that she was not aware of it. It was when I started running for office that I became aware that there was a 75% assistance for cutting trees in your, and which I shared with people in my subdivision. So the idea that all these programs are there and people are not using it, it's not correct.
Okay, Ms. Brockett?
I defer to Palmer.
So part of the concern you have with the program and not knowing about it 6 years ago is it wasn't a program then.
Okay, that's fair. That's
So-
all I was asking.
Before I served on city council, I was the liaison, I was on that board. And the board had lost its non-for-profit status and it wasn't meeting for quite some time. It was actually about to lose its non-for-profit status.
3 years.
And that's when I was on the board. When I got off on council, I made it a point to try to get the board, a resurgence of people back onto the board because housing is so important and retention of our residents is important. So we got that board. We didn't fund the programs till 2 years ago. FNIP used to do equity assurance programs and low interest home improvement loans probably 10 or 15 years ago. They did nothing for 7 or 8 years. All the first time home buyer program is new. It's not new. They used to do it. They didn't do it for 7 or 8 years. Now they're doing it again. The EIM program, the matching $1,500 to improve the outside of your house is new. It's 2 years old.
Okay, well,
The tree program is 2 years old, 1 year old.
where is it located to find this?
So the FNIP has recognized that there is an issue with getting information out, especially to the people that don't use technology. They're actually having a website developed right now.
Right here in the library. I'm sorry, may I?
I'm done, that's fine.
Right here in the library, ma'am, when you walk in the door, if you look on the left-hand side, there's a stack of applications. You can take any one of the 5 applications for the programs that are there. You can bring it into the library when you're done.
But if you're a new person looking into Ferguson, where would that person know that these are some?
It's
of
on the city, it's currently on the city's
Okay.
website under
That's
FNIP.
all, that's.
Yes, I understand your question. Sorry.
I'm on the wrong website.
I thought you were asking a different question.
No,
when I
I was just
jumped in.
saying the marketing aspect of it, where is it that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak about the marketing. So I think the best thing we can do, or FNIP, or even our elected officials is, door to door. You know, it's our community. You should know, like canvassing Ward 2, I see the need. And every time I talk to someone about FNIP, they don't know anything about it. I found out about it spring of 2023 because there was an application in my mailbox because I live in Old Town. And so maybe we mailed it to the entire city, maybe we didn't, I don't know. But I think word of mouth, door to door, face to face, that's the best way you spread information about programs. I found issues and errors with FNIP, with wrong application was online for almost a year. Wrong application was being handed out for almost a year at City Hall.
That actually happened to me.
And if the wrong application means you could potentially follow the wrong procedure and be denied funds. So FNIP did correct those errors after I pointed them out. I also started doing workshops last summer to help neighbors, because I've done it 3 times, approved twice, declined once. And after I made that suggestion at council, I'm happy that FNIP started to do their own workshops to help people fill out their applications. And it is definitely a great program, but word of mouth, door to door, and in the areas of the city that are most in need, I think that's where it needs to be most.
Thank you.
No, he answered it. I was just
Okay.
gonna say on the website.
So I would just say, I believe it should be part of when you come to get your occupancy permit.
That's what I.
Get your occupancy permit, you should know about you should know about the programs that are in the community.
Yeah.
You should know about the incentives that you have to being a resident of the city of Ferguson. In addition to that, we should also, during the budget, we should be putting funds aside to be able to do that type of marketing on a periodic basis, because we have residents that come in and out all the time. And so simply, and yes, going door to door, I would definitely say in regards to what Jamil said, that's definitely an option. Word of mouth is everything. But in terms of the city's responsibility for ensuring that our neighborhoods and our communities are informed, neighborhood associations, that's another way that we can send the information out and let people know. Each one of the council has a network of people that we send information to as well. We should be doing our part as city council people to be able to get this information out. And so that will be a couple of.
Thank you. Thank you for all.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a question online?
We do have a
Okay.
question online. I see, David Williams has his hand up. David, you want to unmute yourself and speak your question?
Yeah, so this is to all the candidates. What are your plans to curb the crime among our young people and promote community policing?
It's really not about housing, and we're about housing tonight.
That will be in a future, we have 2 more forums after this one that will be addressed there. Thank you for your question.
Anybody else online? Okay, Mr. Gaza?
Yeah, I'd just like to hear from each candidate what you would say is the most important thing you've done personally to make Ferguson a more attractive place for people to come to.
Go ahead.
In 2014, Michael Brown Jr. was murdered in our streets. The community was attacked because we used our constitutional rights to protest. We went under a federal consent decree because we were found to have patterns and practices of targeting Black people to generate income. During that time, there were 2 mandated groups out of that consent decree: the Civilian Review Board, which was required for us to be able to hold police officers accountable, and also the Neighborhood Policing Steering Committee. Through that committee, the Neighborhood Policing Steering Committee's responsibility was to look at policy that directly impacted disenfranchised and marginalized people and provide recommendations for those policies to be changed. While before I was even in the seat, I was part of the NPSC. I was a facilitator for that. We were able to provide recommendations for accountability. Not only that, I had to make a legal argument with the Department of Justice as to why we were even able to provide recommendations for policies like the use of force, stop, search, and arrest, and things of that nature. We were able to do that. That work stopped when I got out of office. There were council people that refused to accept the recommendations from the MPSC, a mandated group that was created out of the consent decree. So that was one of the things that I did. And that's just a start.
Mr. Robinette, would you like to go next?
So I think me personally, to answer your question directly, is getting involved with FNIP. I'm currently serving my third term on that board of directors and currently serving as its president. FNIP being defunct and Mr. Palmer being the council liaison that started to pull that back together and round up a quorum for the board. Once I got involved, I was more than willing to help. When I moved here over 20 years ago, I used the no interest FNIP loan to put central air conditioning in a 125-year-old home, right? And it meant the world to me to be able to do that. It was just, otherwise there were 6 window air conditioners hanging on the side of the house, right? So being able to put FNIP out there, I just did a presentation to the city council a couple of weeks ago. FNIP has paid out nearly $400,000 in grants of various kinds, home buyers, investment grants, dead tree. And in that 400,000, there's been over $1 million invested by the residents of Ferguson. I think in terms of making this a better place to live and being able to market it, having programs are a big deal.
Ward 3 candidate, Ward 2 candidate, let's hear from a Ward 1 candidate, okay, and then we'll go back through. Mr. Palmer?
My efforts to make Ferguson a good place to live have been on multiple fronts. On the service side, I currently serve on city council. Prior to that, I was on the business district. I was on FNIP. I actually cast the motion to have Larry appointed as president of FNIP because I saw his leadership skills when he first got on the board. I know he's hesitant to take the position, but I'm glad he did. But I served on all those boards. That's purely a volunteer effort. I've also volunteered in the community. When the cabooses were falling apart, I rounded up the materials and the labor and did it for free. Reached the whole backside of the cabooses. When the parks were looking horrible, I personally went and cut grass on Father's Day when the grass was a foot tall at Jesky Park. I didn't pat myself on the back. I parked 3 blocks away and somebody snuck a picture of me on a lawnmower. When the parks were looking even worse, I set up a mulch madness event in March. I ordered mulch myself for 4 parks, rounded up 60 to 70 volunteers, their own tools, and mulched 4 parks to make them look better. That's now a recurring program through our parks department, which is great because I got tired of doing that. But, I've since had children, so I have less free time, but just as much energy, but I focus my efforts on that. But in my professional life, I've invested millions of dollars in Ferguson housing where nobody else would. My bank thinks I'm crazy. I buy the worst of the worst homes, literally falling down and on the city's naughty list about to get torn down. Instead of costing the city $15,000 to $20,000 to remove and have grass we will forever not cut on time, the houses are back into productive roles, often for sale, often for rent, but they're always offered for sale or for rent. But we have a lot of our neighborhoods where I invest, there aren't people lining up to buy. It's just a reality. Like I said before, when you drive down the street, if a realtor drove you down the street and you saw some of those houses, would you say, thank you for bringing me by these? You'd probably fire your realtor.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Ms. Robinette?
Okay, so mine's more on the volunteer side. So I started here from VTC. So I was doing the fish fries, I was doing the coaching, I still coach. So, and it's just not for the Catholic schools. So we go to the different schools, I put flyers out. I am on FNIP, but mine's more with the volunteer. I volunteered at the Taste in Ferguson. I had kids from McClure, different high schools come and help. So mine is more of getting people into Ferguson to help me volunteer and hope they see the smile on my face and they want to come either volunteer with me some more or move this way.
So currently I serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee, and what we do for the city is we advise our council about businesses that want to come into the city and open. I guess I could say I voted against the used car lot on South Florissant. And I also voted against the cell phone tower going in up on North Dade in the middle of a residential area. Everything else that's come in the last couple of years, I've been in support of, and most of it has been productive businesses that have come to our city. Also, I sit on the Ferguson Civilian Review Board, so what we do is we actually review complaints against our police department to see if there's any viable evidence of wrongdoing by our officers, and then we make our recommendation to the police department if additional training or disciplinary action is needed. We also get an opportunity to interview potential candidates for police officers in the city, which I really enjoy because I'm big on community policing, and I think once our law enforcement officers see us as individuals and people, you get a lot less tension and friction out there when they're doing their day-to-day job. So, but I'm most proud of the fact is that I actually, I moved to Ferguson when it was on fire. I'm married, I have 3 children, beautiful wife, and I feel that I'm an example of the type of individuals we want in our city. So that's all I got for you.
Thank you.
I am the newest of all the residents of Ferguson. I am kind of proud of my recent achievement in my subdivision. I was elected one of the trustees because of the actions that we took in order to stop the city from turning our neighborhood into a chicken place. And without our consent, and what I'm doing with my candidacy running for office is to bring my years of experience in economic development and community improvement and the things that I've done with people. I was in municipal government for about 20 years. And within that 20 years that I was in municipal government, I helped put a park, public works, and appointed the first African-American municipal judge for that community. So I'm trying to bring the same experience to Ferguson to try to, and also things I did in both for UMSO, University of Missouri, and in Lafayette Square. So I'm trying to bring the same ideas of improving our community, improving Ferguson. So that's what I can talk to about my achievements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. White. Anybody else?
Yes, we do. We have Linda Livka, so you can unmute now, Linda, and ask your question.
Sorry about that. Okay, so some of you have kind of touched on it, but I just want to kind of do a quick one quick answer. Don't think about it. Just give me right off the top of your head. I know we're talking about housing, but housing starts by visiting the community. So as a council member, what is the one thing you think you could improve on or you can do in the next 3 years that will bring people into Ferguson to shop or to start businesses? Quickly, just go through each candidate.
Again, like we did before. Ms. Griffin, you want to go first?
I'm actually going to reserve the time for the community because we have plenty of time to talk to council during council meeting.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Robinette?
Yeah, so I think probably the quickest thing that I can think of to do with that is just be able to build a solid infrastructure so that businesses want to locate here and give people choices.
Mr. Bowman?
I got 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Watch Jared.
I've bought, remodeled, and built beautiful buildings in Ferguson. My building, I don't have a vacancy problem in my properties. One of my tenants is in this room right now and proudly runs her business out of one of my buildings. She's very happy to be there. That's one of dozens. Most of those buildings were vacant and looked horrible and were very often talked about by people in the community, always. We need more of that. It becomes this like disparate view when you go out on Florissant Road, you go, that looks great, but then it's like you have the horrible and the really nice. We need to fill in the gaps. People of Ferguson realized that when they passed the economic development sales tax. That fund has become a slush fund for the city to shore up reserves and to fund other projects. It didn't have a established commission until as of recently. In the enacting legislation actually says not a dime is to be spent until you have an advisory board to advise the city on how that money they think should be spent. That's community input. Hypothetically, there should be about $9 or $10 million in there right now. There's
Okay,
not.
let's stick with what we're gonna do to get people.
I'm gonna fight to use our economic development funds properly. Facade improvement grants for all buildings on Florissant Road. We used to have a program like that. Business retention program grants. Current businesses can invest, you provide a redevelopment project or agreement with the city, a plan. And improvements that meet the qualifications, they get grant opportunities to stay in Ferguson. Business recruitment programs. We used to give grants to open businesses in Ferguson. Jerry Knoll got one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. There used to be endless businesses on Florissant Road that got sometimes small, $5,000, but it might have been the difference between getting a really nice sign outside or getting fixtures for inside your business. We don't do that anymore. All of those things need to be done to encourage and foster an environment where businesses are welcome to come to Ferguson.
I'll be brief. I'll use one word, partnership. So I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. We need to partner with other local jurisdictions and communities that are succeeding in attracting businesses to their community. You know, so I would partner with, like, say, cities like Delwood, City of Florissant, and work with them because they're already having success in attracting businesses. So no need in being fragmented or in a silo. Let's work with our other jurisdictions in the North County region. I'll pass.
Okay, Mr. Winifred?
Yes, I think that competition is what drives growth. We should focus on our infrastructure to let people know that we have somewhere they can come and do business in. Two, we shouldn't only focus on one individual as the only savior of the city. We should open up the city, open to businesses that are interested in coming to our city. One good example, I mentioned it earlier, which was the Emerson building. The Emerson building is sitting empty. And the president, I don't know whether you like him or don't like him, that's not the issue. He's talking about bringing companies into the United States to build out of the US. We as elected officials, if I'm elected with the community will be looking into trying to attract foreign investors, Asians, Europeans that want to build factories or companies in the United States on that campus or do something with that campus. And therefore creating jobs and opportunity for people in Ferguson. This limited idea of, if we look at our streets, if you look at the South Florissant, you can close your eye and pass through it without seeing what is done. Not to say that what my opponent did is not good. It's just that we can improve on that and we can attract other investors like they do in Corkwood, like they do in Brixton, Richmond Heights, like Mr. Franklin said. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The answers are there. It's just that the government should be able to allow other people to come in. When you monopolize it, it is very difficult for investment to come to us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Knowles.
Okay, abandoned derelict housing. There's a lot of abandoned derelict housing that is owned by out-of-state investors.
Oh, yeah.
I can think of, this is 4 properties, Topstone Investment, the combined total of back taxes on these properties is $11,000.
Okay, Mr. Knowles, a question.
Question, what are we gonna do about abating the absentee landlords problems?
I think that the best thing, that's what city government is supposed to do. You're supposed to hold those absent landlords responsible for either maintaining those houses or we use eminent domain to take them. Or threaten to use eminent domain to take them because we want to clean blighted area. We get community block grants for cleaning blighted areas. Some people only think the community block grant is only used to fix houses. You can use it. If you look at the statute, it allows you to use it to clean blighted area. So it is the responsibility. Unfortunately, I don't know if the city council is aware of what their responsibilities are or what they can do as elected officials. We have the power to
I just gave you an example of Knight Rider owning, Emerson Building. We can threaten them with eminent domain if they don't want to sell to a Japanese company or a French company that wants to move to Ferguson. And say, if you don't want to sell to, we'll take it from you. We have that authority. It is the responsibility of the elected official, the city council. They may not know, I don't know if they do, to make sure that all these things are taken care of. They tell you, oh, the buildings have been sitting there for a while. Where's the inspectors? Where's this record? But every week we hear about removing occupancy permit. And that's very critical in terms of how we think about what we do in our community. So I think that our elected official, if you give me your vote, I promise you that by the time I leave office in the next 3 years or 6 years, whatever the thought is, that we will have this economic development done in this community. It will be a place people will come to rather than move out.
Right. Ms. Covington, I don't think you got to weigh in on the previous.
I did not, and she said quick in one word, so I'm gonna say two, teamwork in the community and listening. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, back to Mr. Knowles' question about abatement.
Abatement of absentee landlord.
Okay, okay. All right. Let's see. Mr. Franklin.
So what we need to do as a city is code enforcement needs to abate those properties after the landlord has not responded to official notice. And whatever abatement the city performs, that needs to be assessed against the property taxes on the house by lien. And then also our legal system, our court system can actually go after them for them being, not paying their taxes, not satisfying a lien. But that's kind of the only mechanism we have in place. What I've seen in our city is, for whatever reason, our code enforcement team is not going and abate these problem properties, and they just sit there and decrepit, and then it gets to the point where they need to be torn down. So we gotta, I guess, make sure our city staff has the resources, the tools and expertise to abate these properties, and then we handle the legal action on them back.
I'll follow my list this time. Ms. Covington?
Okay, so since I've been on FNIP, those properties are not hard. I mean, they are hard to find the owners to, even if you get them for taxes, they can still come back and pay their taxes, or they can pay a year of taxes. So I know it's hard to look at those properties, but FNIP are working on some of them. One, I think the person went and paid the taxes for 1 year, right? So we're following the rules and we are working on it.
Okay, Mr. Palmer?
When it comes to absentee properties, we have to triage those properties. We are currently doing that with processes that have never been in play in Ferguson. First process is evaluation of the property, and code enforcement has to cite it. Believe it or not, they weren't even doing that. Through OpenGov, it's been a much more formal process with images listed and everything. In order to provide due process to a person who we despise, who doesn't take care of the properties, you have to do this proper paperwork. You can't just show up and cut their grass. They have rights. But what we're doing is we're documenting those electronically. So when you triage that property, when the code enforcement looks at it, they often either get into the section of abatement or sometimes demolition. Demolition sets up a whole nother process of hearings, which was never even established until recently. We've had 2 dangerous structure hearings in the last year, and there's one coming up. The properties have to be deemed dangerous. That person, owner of record, has to have their right in that hearing to solicit the city to say, don't tear my house down. I have a development plan, so on and so forth. Come to one of the hearings. The city gives them time to do it, or if they don't show up, usually they get slated for demo. Abatement, we've been doing abatement, but it's expensive, and we have a lot of abatement to do. This week, we hired our own in-house abatement person. I suggested this. We can have more autonomy. We can work faster. We don't have to wait for somebody out of South County billing us $90 an hour. We can do it in-house. We can get more done and faster. And we were never recording those liens for abatement on county tax records till last year. We recorded 684 liens this last year for abatement that happened in 2024. That had never happened ever until this last year, because I told staff, you do know you can add those as a special on the tax bill. They said, really? I said, yes, you can. It's treated as taxes since tax dollars were used to abate the nuisance. That's happening now. People in this town will be in for a rude awakening come November when that tax bill comes out, because instead of paying $800 and scooting by, the next year, they gotta pay $1,400, $2,000, $10,000. It'll force them to sell it or pay the fine, or it's gonna go into tax delinquent status.
Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Palmer covered the facts that you guys are hearing here. You're hearing a lot of things being thrown out here that aren't factual. You can't just go after somebody, right? That point's been spelled out here. There is a process that protects the people who are absentee landlords. And you can't just walk up and take it away from them. It takes years to get through these things, right? When you can't get service, the home that Lamika was talking about in FNIP, when you can't get service on an LLC that's based in Chicago, that's ownership is outside of this country, you sometimes don't get to do it. We've had the legal service that's doing our pro bono work drop cases because they can't get service to get the paperwork out. Without service, you're not going to court. This is a very complicated issue that exists out there. And if you think you can solve it very quickly, I would tell you that I think that's a misnomer. So please listen to the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Griffin?
I would just say, we do have processes in place to be able to address those, but like they said, it is pretty extenuous. I would say when it comes to some of those derelict, maybe nuisances, you know, so many codes by the city, you know, those are things that can be addressed. And if they are, you know, one of those properties that have been just abandoned, 9 times out of 10, the taxes aren't being paid, which means that you can go through the process, which the lady who was here just described, and it can be as easy. We have a property restoration program in place that prevents, it limits the amount of people that can actually participate in the program because it says you can't be a felon. Well, how can we talk about crime and talk about things in the community when we aren't providing outlets for people to be able to become owners in that, to look at those properties and say, hey, one of the things that when you get out of jail and you want to be able to take care of your family is to become an entrepreneur, is to own homes. That's one of the ways that you prevent people from going back in society and committing crime. So to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I would say as a city, we need to be opening it up to allow everybody to participate in the program. And I understand that, you know, as a man who is able to fund himself and do that, it's easy, but we as a community need to open it up to everyone.
I just wanted to correct a misinformation about.
Our time's up.
No.
Okay, our time is up.
Two people had their hands up.
Okay, nobody else online?
And,
Well, David.
and
Elizabeth
Erica,
is
so
still-
there's at least 3.
Okay, how about this?
Hi, okay, so I've heard so many good ideas and so many great things that you guys are doing, and I'm very impressed by it all. But I haven't heard about any actual marketing. Marketing to me is reaching out to people to tell them about all these good things you are doing. I didn't know a lot of these good things that you were doing until tonight. And I know that to get people into our city that are my age, which is, I mean, generally what a town would want, young families to grow and who want to stick around, who want to plant roots and stay. There needs to be a reaching out to those types of people. And I'm on social media, and I would say that even people who are older than me, younger than me are on social media. I don't see Ferguson have a presence in any sort of social media marketing. I don't see billboards. I don't see commercials. And the problem is that we have a image problem in our city. You say the word Ferguson to anyone across the world, and they're gonna say, don't move there.
Okay,
And I
mean,
mean, sorry, I don't see our city doing anything about that. So my question is to each of you, what is your plan to actually market the great things that you're doing?
Let me ask myself. She had a marketing related question too, so they might be able to be paired.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so my question, very similar, a little bit more specific. I have
due to my public relations background and use throughout my career, I'm very aware of public relations possibilities, principles. And I don't think there is anything that we have available that can do a better job of getting the good news out there. And it's already in operation. And they get pride in the city. Nothing better that I think of than Ferguson Neighborhood News,
Oh, yeah.
which is so far underfunded and under-supported with content. So my question related is, do you support increasing the support of Ferguson Neighborhood News to get the good news out there? And if not, what do you suggest?
Okay, that was marketing and then Ferguson News. Okay, I'm gonna start in the middle of the list this time. Okay, maybe. Figure that out. Mr. Robinette.
So I hear what you're saying, right, about marketing, but I would ask you to take one small step back and think about what you're marketing. You're not marketing something that's polished right now, right? You could go out and market all day long, and they're not gonna come to Ferguson for the reasons that you made.
I did.
So did I, right? But in general, hopefully you see what I'm saying, right? If you're trying to market Ferguson, we need to have something there to market. And I don't think we have any niches. I don't think we have anything that we can actually look at and say, Ferguson is known for this, move here, right? We need to build those things first, or at least concurrently with the marketing program, so that we can get people to want to come here for the cool things that we have that are going on.
Can Ferguson is already doing it. The Ferguson market, the market that you have on Saturday, is one of the things that I like about Ferguson. We have great architecture. I talked about it earlier. I just didn't expound on what I was talking about. Festivals, I talked about the historical society. We have to tell people good story about us. That we don't have to come and tell them, oh, we have crime over here. We've had this over here. Nobody's gonna come. You just got crime statistic passed over for you. Every city in the United States has crime statistics. What they are not telling you, I mentioned about Oakland and I mentioned about Lafayette Square. Everybody goes to Lafayette Square for festivals now. We can do festivals. We can do things to get people come together in Ferguson. Ferguson doesn't have a bad name. As you think, so you are. We need to start thinking positive. I moved into Ferguson. I bought a house in Ferguson because I like the architecture and I like where I live and I want it to be better than it was when I got it. So the idea that that we have to wait till it gets better to build it. I'm 66. I don't know how long I'm gonna wait, but I want you all to think that festivals, the market we currently have, the historical society, the home tour that is already being done, and it's just publicity. We gotta get it out there. You know, thank you for that newspaper. So I will support the paper myself.
Ms. Griffin?
I would just say, I definitely have an issue when you say market, because the city paid a lot of money for imagery. I mean, we changed the style of we went from a train to a leaf, different colors. We spent hours and hours and staffing, which costs money, to literally change the image of it without actually working on policy that affects people in a positive way overall, everybody, not just certain people in particular, but everyone, without that in place. And so for me, when we talk about marketing, that means I'm trying to sell you something. I don't want to sell you something that's not true. I want to actually create it in the community. And we do those things by, all of the wonderful things that Mr. Henry just mentioned. However, yes, I would definitely, I think that it's good for us to put in the budget when we actually sit down how much we're going to use to market, whether that be the FNIP, whether that be about all of these great programs that exist now, whether that means that we open up and extend the Ferguson times and make sure that we're letting people know what's going on. We can do that in the budget as city council members to be able to do that on a social media platform. We do have social media platforms, the city of Ferguson does, which we didn't always have what we've got now, but we have something now, but we can always improve on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Franklin, anything you want to add?
Sure. So I'll start off by saying that I do support the Ferguson Times. I'm 45 years old. I still like newspapers. I like books. I do understand that our youth, social media is key when we market anything. There's a lot of positive things going on in our city that can be marketed across social media. Now, am I a social media marketing whiz? No, but I would probably reach out to UMSL or Flow Valley. There's college students that may work for free to come up with a marketing campaign for social media. And then also, we've got a community full of residents who have various backgrounds and talents who could actually guide us. You know, as a council person, I won't have all the answers, but I will definitely lean on the community for your input and your insight in all things Ferguson.
Ms. Garland?
Okay, so I know nothing about marketing. I can share my love for Ferguson. I can put out there the fish fry, I could throw out there the, Saturday come to the market. We all have to do that. It's not just 6 people that's sitting up there. We all gotta market, Ferguson. We all gotta say, this is a great place to live. It's not on my shoulders. It's not on everybody. Everybody gotta get out there and be like, hey, I love Ferguson. I'm gonna be at the market on Saturday. Hey, come to the market. Fish fry on Friday, come sit down and have some fish with me and drink a cold one. You can't put it all on one group of people. We all have to show people how much we love Ferguson.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Palmer, anything to add?
Ms. Bryan is correct. We do certainly struggle to attract young families to come to Ferguson. It has a lot to do with functional obsolescence in housing. A lot of our housing is post-war construction. It doesn't meet the needs or the wants of a lot of young families these days. You know, a lot of young families don't want to move into a 700 square foot home with 1 bathroom. That's an issue. Another issue we have is, I pointed out in my opening remarks, what we can market right now is what's good. Our parks are awesome. That park brochure I get every 4 months is probably one of the best put together magazines I've ever seen. Whoever puts that together should work on marketing for us. I'm excited to read that and figure out what I'm going to take my son and my daughter to. But we need to have that citywide. I know a lot of people in this room probably read it too, because there's senior programming in there too. But that's one thing we really can market. But we've got to get crime under control. We've got to get housing under control. Ms. Bryan, how old do you think the average municipal voter in Ferguson is?
I don't say old, but. Maybe let's say like 18 and above.
Sir, what do you think?
What I think?
How do you think? How old do you think?
What, the oldest?
The average voter in a municipal election.
60.
Jerry, you work the polls. What do you think?
60.
Yeah, I'd probably say 60.
64. In a federal election, it's 61. That's bad. I mean, it just shows that young people either aren't moving or they're disinterested. So we need to work on both of those. You know, and we have to get housing under control and crime under control before we can really do a robust marketing plan. I mean, we don't want people to move to Ferguson only to move 3 years later or 3 months later because they have buyer's remorse. It happened. There was a young family that moved from Florissant onto Larry Street. They moved less than a year later because of the gunfire. You don't want that. They could have moved anywhere in St. Louis. They chose to move to Ferguson. They moved right back to Florissant. It's a prime example of what we can't have.
Thank you.
There was one last.
Yeah, we're getting really close on time.
So
Go ahead.
I had seen 3 hands before, so I told Erica that she could have the last question. I'm sorry. But, and you can decide, Carolyn, or maybe the questions, a couple candidates could answer. You decide,
Okay,
obviously.
okay.
Maybe not everybody.
Okay.
Everybody can.
What do the candidates feel about that? If we don't get to everyone, just, okay. The library is giving us some grace on the time, but I know a lot of them have been working all day and we don't want to keep them too long, okay? All right. Go ahead, Ms. Brooks. A question?
Good evening. My name is Erica M. Brooks. I live in Ward 2. As you know, in 19, my son and I saved our bus service number 79 because it was gonna be ripped out of here by the city as well as Metro. And as far as somebody having transportation to come through our neighborhoods, talking about, well, you know what, I wanna be able to get to my job. You know, there's different factors that you wanna have in place when you say you wanna move somewhere.
Okay, Ms. Brooks.
Okay,
we need a
okay,
question.
I'm gonna get to the question, but I'm forming it so you
Okay,
can
we
understand
need
why
a
somebody would
question,
wanna
because
come
our
here
time
to
is
live,
running.
okay? So like I said, my aspect was about transportation and making sure that we could actually get somewhere if you want to live somewhere in this neighborhood. When it comes to parks, you're talking about parks and all the other stuff, most of the funding that the city has that's distributed is usually in the January Wabash, Jesky Park, Forest Wood. I live where Dave is. It's there, it's been derelict since I've been living there. I took that poll, that survey about what can be done today. My point is this here.
What's your
There's no-
question?
Okay, I'm gonna get to the question right now.
You saw the.
My point is this here, when it comes to having a family-oriented neighborhood, it's derelict out there. So I wanna know, for the people that city council members that sitting up here, maybe you got one, but the people that are looking to be city council members, what are you all gonna do to enhance our park neighborhood area in order for the families that want to move here to have a livelihood in Ward 2? Because all the money goes that way.
Okay,
So-
so you wanna know what they're gonna do?
What
with
are
the
they gonna do
parks.
to bring a live, vibrant, family-oriented area instead of derelict gunshot, because he's in Ward 2, Larry, remember that.
Okay,
So
so
what
got
you
your
gonna do for
question.
that?
Let's hear from our candidates.
Bring a family-oriented neighborhood, so people can say, I wanna live here.
Okay, so a Ward 2 question. So Mr. Robinette and Mr. Franklin, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, so I'll take that, right? So Erica, I think that particularly if you look at the park that's in your backyard, the amount of money that was invested in that park, the city has done a lot there. And the thing that discourages me is it did nothing for the community after they did it. It was two or three of the playground pieces were torn up within a month of them having been put there and had to be replaced, right? I think what you're asking ties back to the same things that I led off with in my comments, right? There are some things we need to fix. Crime, infrastructure, those have got to go hand in hand with any improvement, or we'll do exactly what Mr. Palmer's already mentioned. We'll attract people in, and a year or two later, they're bugging out. They're not gonna
I'm
hang
asking
around.
about the money. Are you gonna like get money for us so that we can have a park that our families can go to in that neighborhood? Because I wanna be able to go to basketball, I wanna be able to go out there and play tennis, be able to have a skate park, something like that. What can you do for me as city council member to rejuvenate or do something? Because I've never been like, I've been here 12 years. I've never had that.
I've answered my part.
Okay, Mr. Franklin.
So what I would do if elected is, I would start by canvassing the neighborhood, surveying the people that live around the park to see what they actually want in their park. After I gathered that data, I would approach our city manager, hopefully the Parks Department, see how our resources are being allocated across, not just Ward 2, but the entire city for all our parks, and what enhancements we can make, as long as we've got the money in the budget to do so. So I would listen to the people about what they want to see in that park. Like, one of the things I will say that I was happy to see that was enhanced with Dave Park since last time was they moved the playground away from the street, which was a safety hazard for children, because it was right there. And so I was glad to see that enhancement. But again, I'm all about listening to the community about what you want. Because I have my own ideas, but this seat belongs to the people. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I am looking at the clock. It's right up 8 o'clock. Cassandra?
There are two people who really want to talk, but they don't necessarily have to talk to everybody. And what did you want to say?
Okay, so we are by 3 major highways, Highway 70, 270, and 170. And we're by Lambert Airport. So I would like to know, what is your vision to make Ferguson to be the first place that person might get off the airport? Hey, I want to go to Ferguson. Or they're traveling down Highway 70.
hey, we're right in Ferguson, let's go to Ferguson. It's just really nothing exciting to attract people that if you go to Nashville or they got a main district or you go to Central West End. So my thing is, what is your vision for the future? Because we have all this traffic violence to make us a place to stop, you know? Is there other questions similar?
No,
No.
and Adrian is the one.
Okay. All right.
And
Who wants to,
so, yeah.
who wants to start with that?
I,
Okay, Mr. Ridley.
thank you for your question. We are living in what may be called prime real estate. We're close to the airport and we have the main toll highways next to us. We want people to get out of the airport and come to us, people to travel and come to our area. That's what I spoke to earlier, diversity of investment, infrastructure and diversity of investment. If somebody wanted to spend a night in Ferguson, they can, unless they go into the, what they call that, Airbnb. We should be looking for hotels that want to set up shop in our community. We should be looking for other businesses that people want to go to, the movie theater. Ferguson has a large number of swath of land that is empty. I've gone and walked on, just in my ward alone. I saw all these empty spaces that could be utilized to attract other investors or businesses in our community. And to do so, you have to know what you're looking for. And so unfortunately, as a council, when elected as a council member, we will work together to look for people who can do planning, economic development planning for us, to show us what's available. We can go to other people that have done it in their community and see what they did, just like Franklin said, and bring those plans to us, and that will help.
Thank you.
We can do shorter answers.
Okay.
Like 1 minute round.
1 minute.
That's what happened when you give a question.
You asked me what I envision. Well, first things first, we have a comprehensive plan that talks about development in the city over the next several years, which I helped work on while I was in the city. But in addition to that, we've also had a new company move in. It's AI. That's one of the biggest industries, and it's going to go everywhere at this point. If that doesn't bring people into our community, if we as a city aren't partnering with them, then, I mean, we're the closest community to this business. We should be working with them. We should be figuring out not only how we partner with them, but how we can make because we know with AI, it's gonna come a lot of technology, which is gonna require a lot of energy. Well, we as residents want to figure out, how do we take advantage of that? How do we make our bills a little less? We got partners that we can partner with. Ameren UE actually has a program that focuses on solar. So not only will we be able to reduce our bills on a monthly basis, we may potentially be able to earn credit. Technology, AI, making sure that we do that. On top of that, I will say this, we have spent a lot of money trying to cover up what happened here in Ferguson over the last 10 years. And it's ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's never going to be forgotten what happened to Michael Brown Jr. It's never going to be happened. There was a change that was sparked here in the city of Ferguson that resonated everywhere. Why are we acting like that didn't exist? So what we need to do is take a negative and turn it into a positive. We need to honor the legacy. There's incentives through St. Louis County for tourism. Why are we not honoring the legacy? Why are we not talking about the change that was sparked? Unfortunately, because of a young boy's death, that resonated everywhere. Why are we not talking about that?
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Okay, let's go to another question. Last one. Okay. Sure.
I have a question. My question is, I look at our nucleus here on South Crescent Road and 5 miles out. And this goes for Ward 2 and 3. how do you blend? Ward 2, if I was taking a tour, on a bus tour, and they took me through Ward 2 and Ward 3, how would you make that acceptable to the people that are riding on the bus to say, you know, I'm gonna move into Ferguson? That's my question. How do you blend the area that's been blighted? Since I've been living here 35 years, there's not been any money put into the area on the, more or less the housing community, the housing complex for low income, and the blighted area on the streets off of Suburban going towards Kenbach.
And I'm gonna ask that someone other than Henry and Francis, you answered the other question.
That goes to Ward
Okay,
2 and
so-
3, and Mr. Palmer. if
Okay,
you'd like
and
to-
can we do 1 minute? Are we okay with that since we're past 8 o'clock? So quick.
Blight removal, housing demolition, code enforcement, nuisance abatement, public infrastructure investments. If we can get most of our blight removed, it will put most absentee owners, both here and abroad, on notice. When they get that tax bill, they're gonna say, I'm selling or I'm getting the hell out of Ferguson. I'm not talking there no more. My idea is, once we get all these lots, everybody says, what are you gonna do with the lot whenever you tear the house down? It's a good question. My idea is that we get the lot, trim back fence to fence. You get the grass cut, trash picked up, take a picture of it. Get the county GIS software out, you put a pin. Click on that pin, it tells you the zoning district, the lot dimensions, the floodplain or not, and what type of structure you can build on it. When you got 250 of those lots, the city looks organized when you have that spreadsheet. You send that to every housing developer you can find. And you get people like Habitat for Humanity who have already committed to building 3 homes in Ferguson to sell to owner occupants in Ward 2 by Dade Park. But until we get blight under control, people aren't gonna want to drive through those neighborhoods. Just the reality.
Anyone else wanted to answer? What Adrian said?
Well, I
Yeah,
thought there
oh,
would be 2 other people.
She
but
said,
not.
well,
Yeah, I had.
That's, okay,
Okay.
so let's,
Okay.
who else did you say, Sandra?
I was gonna say something, but you counted me out. But I think that, the best way to deal with some of these issues is very simple. I'm not gonna take that long. It's very simple,
Very short.
very short, okay?
Very
It is, again, reaching out to the county. The county gave us $24 million to welcome South Florida, and we haven't even taken that. But because whatever plan we make is a regional plan. Reaching out to the county and neighboring communities and getting the plan that they use that work for them. And that's what I think we should do. And when we get that money, use it, not just worry about who's going to cut the grass.
Mr. Robinette, anything since Adrian asked about 2 and 3?
No, my points have been addressed.
Okay, Ms. Covington?
I would just be repeating what's already
Yeah.
been said.
All right, that sounds like a, one final question, okay.
Like Mr. Robert was talking about the infrastructure, that will draw people here because we have streets that need repairing, bridges, roads. Like I'm behind the train derailed in my backyard. I've got the overcast on the train coming through. So with the house, the trees need to be cut down. I mean, some type of structure, I feel the train coming through my house shakes. And I've never known about the different NIP. I've been there 7 years. But to better Ferguson, we need to do a major infrastructure. Because I lived through the flood, then we had a long-term fix on the flood. I had the train derail in my yard, and I'm still rebuilding.
Okay, a question?
Is there a question?
He said, well, my question was, also, I think they're doing repair on the reconstruction, infrastructure. So how long is that gonna take to get Ferguson up and running?
So I'm sure you all can appreciate it's purely a money function, right? Infrastructure is expensive to build. I've witnessed Ferguson in the last 2 years put more money into streets than they have in the previous 10, probably. It's starting, folks. It's not gonna be fixed tomorrow. When you're pumping $3.5 million into streets and you're only touching however many we did. I don't know the number of streets, 12, 13, something like that. You know, how many more streets there are that in need of repair? And the residents that aren't getting those repairs are concerned because they're seeing these streets repaired and theirs aren't. So you're not gonna make everybody happy. It's gonna be a function of doing this with the amount of money that we have.
Our roads have been underfunded for 20 years. I'm not gonna tell anybody that. When the American Rescue Act money came in, we focused about 75% of that on roads. First, we did concrete slab replacement, and now they've started some asphalt mill and overlay full complete streets. But there's about to be an unfathomable amount of streets being paved in the next 3 months. I sent the list out on social media. I have it in my phone somewhere, but I think 17 or 18 streets are about to get full mill and overlay. That being said, there's still about $20 million in road work to do, a lot. So what I've told staff is they need to grade all of our roads and develop a long-term budget plan. Not just which road's falling apart this year, because we know Clark's bad, Princess Elizabeth Park's bad, Carson's bad. I mean, we're not keeping up fast enough. So we've got to build a 10-year plan and fund that plan out of capital. That way we're not going to the residents for a $20 million bond issue.
Okay, I think there, it's been interesting. We gotta wrap it up this time. Thank you all for
So, very quickly.
Let's give a
first-
round of applause.
Yeah, but, okay, well, those are the first two things for me. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Tricia. Appreciate it so much. Thank you for all the candidates for your really well-considered answers.
Let's have a round of applause for our candidates.
Next forum, we have more announcements.
Thank you, everybody, for attending here and on Zoom. I hope it was very beneficial for everyone. We are planning 2 more similar events on March 20th, which is also another Thursday. We are going to talk on, is our style of community policing effective? So you've heard Councilman Williams ask a question. That will probably definitely be covered in the next one. So again, is our style of community policing effective? Then on April 3rd will be our last one, which is how do we encourage development on West Florissant?
Who are the subject matter experts on both of those?
Okay, very good. The subject matter expert on the March 20th one is Dr. Christy Griffin. And our moderator will be Jerry Knoll, and our timekeeper is going to be Becky Miller. For the third one, our expert is going to be Maud Frost, who is with the St. Louis Community Development Commission. And our moderator is Dr. Dwayne James.
And also, a round of applause for the library.